what's up, baby? It's 40 from 40TV. So today we are working on volumetric modeling, and what we're going to do is take a 3D model found on Thingiverse. In fact, a Pac-Man ghost. I'm going to show you what we're going to be making or aiming for. And really, this was a full ghost, right? I cut it in half, added a backing. It used to be hollow. I made it so it's not. And then I added like a little loop right here so that you can insert a code, make this into a necklace. I will make a subsequent video or a follow-up video that will be available on my art channel. The link will be in the description of this video when it's ready on how I finish this and turn this into a sexy piece of jewelry. Without further ado, let's jump in, yo!
All right, guys, so now we're on the computer. I have Safari open with Thingiverse.com. For those of you who are not aware, this website will allow you to download 3D models for free. And if you find a model that you like, you can remix it, meaning you can make changes to it, upload it, credit the original author, etc., right? So this is the file that I ended up using. I should have actually used the original. This is a remix of an original ghost that was modeled by someone else, and probably you can find it somewhere. Usually they add it in the description here, but I don't see it, Anyway, you can find this one by looking for Sasja or Remix Pac-Man Ghost, and what this person did when they remixed it is they added the ability to make a hole, so it's hollow inside. You can put your finger there, makes it easier to paint. Really, I just wanted the ghost, right? And it added some problems by making it hollow, but that's fine, So this is going to show you some things that's pretty cool inside Cinema4D. We're going to switch on over to Cinema4D. I'm going to take that file, drag it over, and drop it into our scene real quick. Boom. And when we do that, it's going to ask us, we're importing an STL file. Our scale 1 at centimeters is fine. We'll say okay, Excuse me. Obviously, there are lots of different ways to model figures or objects, etc., to be printed later on a 3D printer. But one of the ways that I found really easy, really beneficial, if you're going to modify an STL file, is to use Cinema4D and take advantage of volumetric building, right? So turning this into a volume. So right now we have this right here. I'm just going to go over a few quick things. The idea is that this is not a Cinema4D tutorial on how to use Cinema4D. I assume you already know how to use it. Otherwise, most of this is going to go over your head. But real quick, 1, 2, 3 on your keyboard. 1 and clicking left on your mouse and dragging around is to pan around the scene. 2 and clicking is to zoom in and out. 3 and clicking is to orbit. If we orbit over here, we can press H on our keyboard to recenter whatever's selected in our object's view, or if nothing's selected, it will center everything, So let's get started. If we come up here, click on this particular button right here and select Volume Builder, we can drag the ghost into the Volume Builder. And what that's going to do is that it's going to create, based on these polygons, it's going to create a volume. And right now it looks super blurred and whatever. And that's because if we click on Volume Builder, our voxel size is set too large. It's set to 10 centimeters or 100 millimeters. If we drop this down to 1 millimeter, all of a sudden this thing has detail, right? This is what we're looking for. However, before we save this file out, we will drop it down to 0.2 or 0.1. However, if we drop it to that now, it's going to take a lot of processing power every time we make a change. So leaving it at something that's a little bit higher is beneficial while we're modeling, right? So there's a few things to note here. As we drag things into the volume builder here, they will show up in this list here. You could alternatively not have this inside the volume builder hierarchy here and just drag it in here. You could do that as well, but I think it makes more sense to keep track of things, to have it also a child up here. Again, we talked about voxel size. If we click on the down arrow here, these voxels, interior and exterior voxels, are the width. So what a volume builder does is it creates a volume, and the volume has a width, right? This width are these numbers here. If we change the voxel range from 2 and make it 3, for example, it's more computational power. But if you needed a larger wall width, this is what you would change, these two numbers right here, the interior and exterior voxel range. I'm going to go ahead and click on that for now. I'm not going to get into everything about the volume builder, but signal distance field and fog are two different ways to calculate the volumes that it builds, and depending on what you're going for will determine what you select. For us, doing 3D printed models, sign distance field is what we're going to use, and it works just fine, So again, up here is the ability to switch between our different views. If we click on this, you'll notice that we don't see anything right here, and that's because we need to click on displays and change to ground shading to be able to see. Same thing, we're going to do it here. We're going to do it here, even though we're not going to work in the top view, just so we see something, huh? If we come into these views, press H, it's going to recenter, but it's going to recenter based on where its origin is. Excuse me. You'll notice 0, 0's here and it's off. I'm not going to fix that. No big deal. We're just going to go ahead and start working. The first thing we want to do, so let's come in here to perspective. Press 3 on a keyboard, click, bam, press H. You'll notice that this is hollow, huh? And obviously, if I fix the origin here, then yeah, that would be awesome. Maybe I should just do that. I'll click here, select this, and if we go ahead, I'm sorry, if I go ahead and drag this back down over here, try to bring our axis somewhere better inside the model, this should fix our problems when we're recentering things, orbiting, etc. I'll go ahead and turn it off. I'll press H on my keyboard. Boom. Now we are orbiting around the model in a better situation. Huh? So again, this thing is hollow. If we go ahead and switch our view here and we come over here to our right view and we press H on our keyboard, press 2, click, now we could zoom out a bit to reposition everything. We want to cut this in half because the idea is this is going to be some kind of necklace, right? So in order to do that, what we need to do is we need to create something, right? I'm going to create a cube. I clicked on cube right here, a primitive. I'm going to click on the scale. I'm going to click somewhere and just drag. And then I'm going to press H on my keyboard to reposition everything. And, you know, let's take this ghost and I'm going to change its location. Huh? So if I come and bring this over here, then press H on my keyboard, now everything is just right there. Perfect. Next, let's go ahead and take this cube and maybe make it a bit smaller, right? Select the cube, make sure scale is selected, click and drag, boom, boom, boom. I'm gonna select this, the move button right here. I'm gonna drag this over. I'm gonna look for the middle. Of course I could do this mathematically, but I'm just gonna eyeball it, huh? I'm gonna drag this up and this looks like half of the model, somewhere around there, give or take, huh? It doesn't have to be perfect. Next, the other thing is we're looking at just from the right view. Is this centered on the model? Probably not. So let's switch our view, come over here to the front and make this enlarges, and we'll see that it is not. I'll press H on my keyboard to show everything, and I'll drag this over, and now this should be cutting this entire thing in half. Although it's not just yet, because if you look over here, our cube in our object browser is not inside the volume builder. When I drag it in over here, it changes this into a volume. And then if we click this and we come back out, let's come to the perspective view, press H on our keyboard, press 3, click, and now we've orbited around. We need to tell it to subtract this from the other volume. We can do that by going over the volume builder, selecting the cube, and instead of union, which is the default, which is like add, this is like a Boolean operation where you tell it to add one primitive, one object or model to another. That's what union is. Subtract, obviously, subtract. As soon as we do that, we have removed that portion of the ghost with the cube. So again, if I click on the 3 on my keyboard, I can orbit around and boom, here is the back of the ghost. You can see that this thing is hollow, huh? So what we want to do is add something to make it not hollow. And how are we going to do that? Obviously with a capsule, baby. So I'm going to leave this view. I'm going to come over here to the right view. I'm going to press my primitives. I'm going to find capsule. And then I'm going to select scale. I'm going to click somewhere and start dragging down to resize this puppy. Something like that looks all right. I'll switch to the move tool and boom, we'll drag this up. And now we need to see how this is looking. And obviously this is not centered. So we're going to come over here, try to line this up, maybe shrink this down a hair, something like that. Bring this over. And now if we look, it looks like all right, huh? And looking in the perspective view. Let's enlarge it a bit. Let's look underneath, press H on our keyboard. And again, I'm clicking 3 on my my mouse to orbit around, and boom, there we go. It's looking good. That's exactly what we want. We want to fill it with this, right? So, one of the things you might notice, if you look, is that capsule now just brought the eyes forward. Obviously, we can move this back a hair to make the capsule not come through the eyes, to make the eyes deeper as they were. However, one of the things you'll notice, if we do that, and we come in the perspective view and we look under, it may not be touching all the way in right there. Huh? So Is that okay? Maybe let's try to get it as close. Maybe somewhere right there. We'll say that that's fine. Now, if we want this to join the ghost, right, we are still going to need to cut this side of the capsule off and the bottom side, right? So what we're going to have to do is group things. If we come over here and drag this into the volume builder, now this is one volume, right? If we select the volume builder, you'll see that the capsule is up here. And what we need to do is to create a couple cubes to remove this. I'm doing this in a very basic sense and showing you how to solve certain problems you might run into, or how to come up with different ways to create this is a very simple process, huh? So let's create the cubes that are going to cut things off. Let's reorganize things. I'm going to drop this capsule below the cube right here. And when I do that, it's telling this cube to delete this capsule too, huh? Now all we need to do is add another cube right here to cut off this area, right? So I'm going to select this view. I'm going to select cube, the primitive right here. When I do that, I'll change to the scale tool, and when I drag this puppy down, something to this effect looks just about fine. I'm going to move this down. Whoops, and again, I clicked on the wrong thing, my bad. I'm going to move this down and somewhere about there. Remember that we have to reposition it here in the front view as well. Press H on my keyboard to recenter everything. I press the underneath this. There is a tiny handle to change just the scale, right, of this particular axis. And if you click on it instead of clicking on the arrow, that's what happens, huh? And that's what I was doing. Anyways, so I'm moving this over. That's looking all right. Now, if we look, we have something to this effect. But when we drop this, and let's rename this. We're going to call this cube cap for cube capsule because it's going to be grouped with the capsule. If I drag and drop this in right here, you'll notice that, oh, damn, it added it right here. If we come over here to the volume builder and we select cube cap, again, this is going to be right here. You'll notice that if I change this to subtract, it deletes all the bottom part of the ghost. We don't want that, huh? So I'm going to leave this for union for a second, and I want to group the capsule and cube cap together. Over here is a folder button. When we click on that, we could drag these two items into that folder. And now what I want to say is the cube cap, I want to subtract from the capsule. So let's set that to subtract. And now the folder, the totality of this operation basically is saying, take this capsule, and then I'm just going to select union and then subtract this square, which only intersects the capsule here. And after you subtract it, take the totality of this folder and add it, right, to this model. Right? So now if we come back over here to our perspective view and I click and I drag, you'll notice we now have a back, and you'll also notice that we have, this is where the cube stopped right there. Now we can decide if we want to change that, right? So this is the cube that is cutting the bottom of that cap. We can then, if we, let's go ahead and reposition this so you can see what's happening a bit better. And now as I go ahead and I change this, I'm changing where this cube is, right? And it's changing where that add or minus is happening within it. Now I know that if I line this up perfectly right here, you end up seeing it through the grooves here. I know this because I've already printed this, right? So this is looking perfect. This is exactly what we wanted. The only other thing we have to do is add something so that we can make this a necklace. So we're going to add something on the top here. I'm going to make our right view expanded. I'll come over here. And obviously the best thing that we should probably select is a tube. Now we need to scale this down. Select the scale button. I'll click and I'll drag, and you'll notice the orientation is incorrect. So let's select the tube and then let's change the orientation. I don't know if this is supposed to be in Z or X. It looks like X. So whether it's X positive or X negative doesn't matter, huh? Next, we want to stay in scale and we want to drag this down, and we are eyeing this, huh? I'm not doing this necessarily exactly to some scale. It's just, I'm just eyeing it. So again, something like this, I'm going to press H on our keyboard, press 1, click, boom. And now we still want to make this quite a bit smaller. And right now I'm not worried about that inner diameter circle, huh? And I think when I originally did this, I set this to be 30 millimeters, something to this effect. Next, if I click on the move and I drag this out, I had this cut off a bit, right, in the final design. And the reason I did that is because of printing purposes. I wanted this to print this on the bottom, and I wanted it to be flush. So if I print this like this and I have this cut off, then we don't have to have any supports to have this piece built from the base, right? Creating potential problems, etc., etc. This hole in the center is not big enough. So let's come back over to the tube, click on it, and let's change this to be 12. No, I'm sorry. Let's set this to be 25 maybe. No, was 30 good enough? Yeah, let's keep it at 30. And again, I don't remember exactly what I set these to. Maybe 15 or 17, something like that, huh? And so again, we're gonna eye this. We're gonna bring this up a bit, something like that. And it's gonna get cut off just a hair. And if we zoom in here, right? I want to make sure that when this is cut off, we have enough material here. So really, you just want to cut it off just a little bit. Something like this. I don't know. Well, let's find out. Let's drag this into the volume builder, right? And when we drag this into the volume builder, one of the things you'll notice, it created a volume. But what's wrong here? If we click on our views and we go back to the front view, you'll notice that this is off, huh? And so let's go ahead and drag this over. And we want this to be in the center. And again, I'm eyeing this, huh? There, of course, you can do this exact, precise, etc. But this is just something quick to do a quick demonstration and what we're looking for. Another thing that we can do is select this, come over here to our tools, say arrange objects, center, and we want to center them on the x-axis. So we're going to say middle, apply, boom. And that's all we that's all we need to do. Now this thing is centered. We're going to come back over here. And what we want to do here is we want to change where it is in the volume builder, because if we drag this tube below this cube, now that this cube, which is on the top saying subtract from everything, this is going to subtract it. Boom. Basically, we are almost done, right? I'm going to come over here to the perspective. I'm going to click 3 to orbit this puppy around, and it's looking nice, right? So zoom in a bit. There we go. And this is what we got, huh? It's got a solid back. There's a bottom, etc. It's got the part for the keychain, etc. Now, if we come over here to the volume builder, remember I said before we save this, export it, etc., we're going to change the voxel size. So let's go ahead and change it to 0.2. When I press enter, you'll notice down here it says calculating volume builder, and this is going to take a second. It depends on your machine, huh? So maybe less than a minute, I think, on my machine. But it's going to take a second. And obviously, if you made this change, every time you move something within this, it would have to recalculate, huh? And it would take at least this amount of time. It wouldn't be able to be worked. So now that that's finished, right? It's set there. We're going to come over here and we need to get the volume mesher. We need to drop the volume builder into the volume mesher. And as soon as we do that, boom, now this is one mesh, right? One thing that you're going to want to make sure that you do, if we can save this file the way it is as an STL file, of course, back it up as a Cinema4D file. But one thing that you want to make sure that you do is in the volume mesher, make sure the adaptive is set to 1%. That will lower the file size dramatically, baby. And so make sure you do that. If you want to export this to print it, we would go ahead and click on File, Export, STL file, and then we can take that STL file, put it to our 3D printer. In fact, let me show you on the 3D printer, me printing this puppy, and we'll call it a day. Guys, I hope you liked this tutorial. You found it informative and useful. If you did, please like, share, subscribe, share it with your friends, baby. It would mean the world to me. Until next time, I'm out.